Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Niina Harjula. I come from Lahti, Finland. I will be moderating this morning, and the topic is international clusters cooperating. We will have interesting persons in the panel. So we have Monsieur Michel CATINAT from the European Commission. We have Mr. Alain GRIOT from the Ministry of Environment, Sustainable Development and Energy from France. And we will also have two cluster representatives. Addition to me, there will be Per Olav Låstedt from OREC, Norway, and Nelab Singh from Clean Denmark. And I will start a bit describing maybe the reason why I'm moderating this session and kind of get you into the topic. And I come from Finland. The Finnish Cleantech cluster was started already or initiated already in 2005 by the government. So in Finland, we've been focusing on cleantech and then building clusters and networking the cleantech companies and boosting the industry for a very long time. It was a formal ministry mandated and funded program for 9 years. And even if the official program ended, in Finland we are quite flexible, so we are all still working together. We have a common brand, Cleantech Finland, and we have several actors in Finland that have sort of over the years developed different kind of tools and services for the cleantech industry, and we are using the best ones still after the formal program has ended. And I think for us Finns, it's very natural to think international market because the home market is so small. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we have always been kind of ahead of many big countries, because we have to, and even the small companies have to go global very fast. But if you think from a big point of view, like we are trying to tackle the climate situation and the lack of resources and all these problems facing us, going global is something we need to do. Even if you think from a smaller perspective and from one company and building your business, big corporate or small or medium-sized companies, I think we cannot ignore that there is a lot of innovation happening around the world, and we can't just shut down in one region and think local and think we are going to invent all the solutions here, but we have to look around what are the others doing. Here's an interesting map. This is Cleantech Group's Cleantech Innovation Index embedded into a Google map. It was made by a friend of mine from Veolia. It shows where the cleantech innovations are born. So you can see that Europe is filled with red dots, and those are cleantech innovation hubs. But it's also other places in the world. But in Finland, we have a lot of innovations happening, but we still think that you have to look around everywhere, and we have to connect the companies that are creating these innovations if we want to really make a big difference. Why I'm talking here is one of the reasons is maybe that I'm a co-founder and a board member in the Global Cleantech Cluster Association. I will give a very short history what happened and why I got into this cluster business. In 2009, I was working for the Finnish Cleantech Cluster, and I was nominated, or I was given a task to work in an EU-funded project called EcoClub. Some of you might have heard because we have some of the EcoClub partners here. It was a European project with 13 cleantech clusters around from 10 different European countries. It was first pan-European project for cleantech clusters, very interesting one. And I was assigned to help the clusters form internationalization plans. So what I did first, I went and I did a survey and asked how many of them had internationalization plan or strategy. And I found out that 2 out of these 13 clusters, I'm talking clusters from Austria, Germany, Sweden, Finland, UK, really big, excellent clusters, 2 had internationalization plan in 2009. Finland had one. We had it in 2006 because what I said, we cannot just stay in the home market. It's 5 million people in Finland. So we were assigned to do this task, and when I was doing this, I started studying this subject, this topic. And I did a survey among the clusters that were in Eco Club, but I also wanted to benchmark how are we doing in Europe, how are we doing globally? Is there something happening outside Europe? Are there clusters in North America? Of course there were interesting ones, and at the time already you could see something happening in Asia. So when I was doing this survey and then talking to people and kind of asking weird questions from people, I found out some people in North America and in Switzerland who were talking about the same thing, or who were thinking about the same, that we should actually connect the clusters. We should make the clusters form a network, and that would help the companies find each other. Because the clusters are usually non-profit, so they are kind of competing. They're trying to make their region flourish and grow, but at the same time they need to cooperate and they need to connect their small companies to global markets. So 2010 we decided, or we founded Global Cleantech Cluster Association, and it's a very open platform. It's a network, very low hierarchy, no bureaucracy. We didn't want to make a big organization. We wanted to make a big network, something that would be easy to access for the cluster managers, where you can share best practices, you can talk to other clusters in San Diego, in Lahti, Finland, in Germany, in France, and see what they are doing, what could you learn from them. And maybe our companies could connect, maybe they can go together to some bigger markets in Asia, for example. And we thought that, okay, if we can get 10, the best ones in the world to connect, that's already interesting. But it grew very fast. We have over 50 member clusters. It's very open, so it's easy to get a membership. It's not like you have to pay or something. You pay if you want some services that we provide. But basically what we are inviting you is to join the network. And then also we have been, of course, developing this in Finland. And 2 years ago, we opened this kind of network for innovations called Nordic Innovation Accelerator. And this is interesting that I'm speaking about this in Paris, because this was initiated with Veolia, a French company. So they came to us 2 years ago and said, we are interested in the innovations and the cleantech companies in Nordic countries. And we would like to tap into that innovation channel. We would like to learn what's happening there and if there are solutions that we could take into our radar. And we opened this platform together with them. Veolia is not the only customer anymore, so we are also now enlarging it, inviting partners from the Nordic countries, also using it with other corporates to find innovations. And at the moment, we have a first pilot connecting the GCCA D-Hub, which is the same kind of online tool, and the Nordic Innovation Accelerator. So if you open a call at the NIA tool, you can also open it globally through GCCA. So this is my playground, I usually say. And I think this is very much the same for all the clusters. You are just maybe doing it differently or calling it differently, but this is what you're doing. You're serving the startups and the SMEs who are making these innovations and what they need. They need funding. So we're trying to connect them with investors. But at the same time, you have big corporates who are looking for these innovations, and they have the market access. They can give a fast track to the markets. And they also have the resources for the pilot or the proof of concept, the testing. So now we are trying to connect the corporates and the small companies because of that, to make it faster. And when the corporates are coming in, they're not necessarily investing, so we still need the investors. And this is what we call NIA, Nordic Innovation Accelerator. We are doing this on an online platform, which is very easy to access and free. All the services are free for the small companies. This is still a pilot, in a pilot phase, so we're just in the beginning. We have been piloting it first with Veolia and now with a bit larger group in Finland, and this is already the 3-month rate of visitors on the platform. So we're looking at quite a big number of companies already using or visiting, and the amazing thing is that it's not all Finland. It's US and Russia are quite large. So the interest is everywhere, and I think the need for networking, and that's why I believe we are all here. So basically the Nordic Innovation Accelerator is just a tool. It's an online platform where we can give corporates a chance to source innovations outside their own R&D. We can offer the small companies an opportunity to meet partners and investors. We have 6 innovation calls opened during this pilot time, and we have 7 pilot projects already ongoing as a result of this. So I would like to thank you, and this is kind of my opening for the discussion. I truly believe that networking is very important. Making local global, connecting the local clusters globally is important. And that's why I'm very happy that we have these speakers here today to tell their point of view, how do they see this topic. And we will start with Michelle CATINAT from the Head of Unit Cluster Social Economy and Entrepreneurship from European Commission. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Nina. Thank you for the invitation. So what I would like to do is to bring you through the EU policy, and not only in what we call the Green Action Plan, aiming at stimulating resource efficiency and circular economy, but also the EU cluster policy. And you will see very rapidly that these 2 types of policies goes hand in hand. So, which means that the objective of this conference or this workshop, where you have at the same times the word ecosystems, collaboration, and resource efficiency, is really our way of thinking at the EU level. So I have a series of slides. I will start with some figures and some evidence. The first slides. On the left-hand side of the slides, you can see that more or less 50% of the cost of production are related to resource efficiency. So very important part. And the right side of the slides, just to say that in terms of waste flow, we just valued 40% of the waste. So which means that we really undervalued very much the waste. The second evidence is that, as you can read, you have 91% of SMEs that sell their green product or services in the national market. So which means that for the SMEs in the EU, when they are a service provider or product producer of green products or services, they do it only on the national market. So there is clearly a need of internationalization. The third evidence is shown in this slide. So in these slides, you have different color. So the red is for disposal of waste, up to the yellow and green, which represent the part of the waste which are recycled. And you have all the different member states horizontally. So as you can see, you have best member states and less best member states. So here the point is that if all the member states were able just to mimic what is done in the best member states, we will improve drastically the valuation of waste in the EU. So now let me turn to the policy. Well, we have our motto, and which is ready, steady, go. As you know, in sport we use this expression. So I don't know whether we will win the race, but at least we use this motto, not in the right order, but we use this motto. So we have implemented a steady policy framework. I will say some words about this green action plan for SMEs. So once again, the objective is resource efficiency. Then we are ready to commercialize. So we have a lot of policies, measures to help commercialization of green products. And then we want to go international. So here the objective is to help the SMEs to become international player. And here the cluster policy you will see as a key role to play. The Green Action Plan. So the Green Action Plan, in fact, well, it's a little bit complicated, this slide, but there are two main objectives. First row, it's greening SMEs. So here what we want to do is to ensure that the SMEs will improve their process of production by improving their resource efficiency. And for the other line, except the governance, which is just how we govern this at the EU level, for the other one, the objective is to pave the way for the markets of green products and services to develop on the supply side and on the demand side of this market. Alors, secondly, getting ready to commercialize. Here we have two main tools. The first one is what we call the Enterprise European Network. So it's a network of entities, let us say something as a Chamber of Commerce or the equivalent. We cover the whole EU regions. We have also some partners in other regions of the world, in China, Russia, and Japan in particular. So in total, we cover 54 countries with 600 centers. And the role of these centers is to raise awareness, it's to advise the SMEs, and also to promote partnerships, in particular through brokerage events. On the right side, here what we do, we try to give some grants to some SMEs wanting to get green or greener. We do it through Horizon 2020. So Horizon 2020, it's our research program at the EU level. And what we do, we finance through the so-called SME instrument, three phases. The feasibility, it's where some SMEs, they have an idea and they want just to start preparing a business plan. Then they have to test the feasibility of the product they want to put on the market. So it's the second phase, and the first phase, it's really the commercialization and implementation. So we can co-finance all these different steps by the SMEs. Alors now, go international. So we'll spend a little bit more time on this. First, some evidence. Here you can see that the cluster firms, which it means the firms which belong to some clusters, and a cluster for the EU, it means ecosystems for innovation. We have a cluster policy aiming at stimulating innovation through ecosystems. So the evidence is that the cluster firms are more innovative than non-cluster firms, so are more innovative than firms that doesn't belong to clusters. So you can see between green and blue the performance of, in green, firms from clusters, and in blue, firms outside of the cluster. So firms within the cluster are more efficient in terms of innovation. That's the three first column. Then it's the contrary for the fourth one, which means that in fact, when you are an SME or a firm in a cluster, you don't carry out your own research as much as firms outside of a cluster, but what you do, you outsource your research. And the reason is that in most of the clusters, you have some universities or technology center. So here, in a way, it's, for me, it's positive. It means that the SMEs, they use the know-how of some members of the clusters instead of spending their own money to do that. And the last two columns is about patenting. So here also, as you can see, the patenting performance of SMEs or companies within clusters is much higher. So our objective, we have basically two objectives in our cluster EU policy. It's the development of world-class clusters. So it's what we want is to promote excellence. We don't support the establishment of clusters. We deal with existing clusters. So the objective is not to increase the number of clusters, but it's to help them to become much more performant. And we do that through, in particular, labeling skills, where we give some gold, silver, or bronze awards to these clusters. And the second main objective is the cooperation. So what we do is to bring through different instruments to stimulate the cooperation and the collaboration between EU clusters, not only within the EU, but also outside of the EU. So there is a lot of similarities with what, Nina, you have explained to us. So this one, I can skip it. So let us look at how we proceed. So we have a program which is called COSME. We have a lot of money available here to promote internationalization of clusters. So first, we do it through grants. And the grants are used to boost what is called economic strategic cluster partnership. To go international, so international, it means not only within the EU, but also outside of the EU. And what we want is to support clusters which agree on jointly becoming international. The second tool is through matchmaking events. So here what we do, we help organizing such matchmaking events where all the different stakeholders could discuss, negotiate, and identify some partnerships. And thirdly, this is also important, we have a platform, so it's a website where all the information are available on the existing clusters, on their characteristics, on their performance, on their specialization. We have also a lot of information about national and EU cluster policies. And all this, of course, is the basic information for the clusters if they want to start collaborating with each other. Alors, for the grants. So for the grants, what we do, as usual, we launch calls for proposals and we select the best proposals. So here you will see the eligibility criteria. So to be eligible, we speak with a consortium, with consortia of clusters. We need at least 3 cluster organizations from minimum 3 EU member states or COSME countries. I mean, COSME countries, there are some other countries outside of the EU which are member of the COSME program. So their clusters are also eligible. We co-finance joint international strategy. So it means that they have to come up with a joint and agreed collaboration strategy. It's not just one cluster saying, well, I would like to become international. No, they have to agree on acting all together. They have to include a lot of SMEs with a view to paving the way of their internationalization in third markets, and we aimed at supporting long-term agreements. So in other words, it's not just, we don't support collaboration for the next year, but we want to have a kind of roadmap and a strategy which is a long-term strategy. So we have adopted a step-wise approach. So we started with some pilots. So here you can see 6 pilots which has been developed between 2012 and 2014. And as you can see, the first 3 ones are about resource efficiency or circular economy. So it has been very successful. A lot of interest in this with this 6 pilot. So which means that now we have started to do it in full. Before speaking about what we do now, here this chart is interesting because as you can see, you have different technologies horizontally and different markets which could be provided with through these technologies. You have the list of the clusters which are included in the wind tech strategic partnerships. And as you can see, in the boxes, you have very often a lot of required collaboration between these different clusters. So now what we do right now, we always do it through the COSME program. We have for 2014-2015 nearly 3 million euros available to co-finance such initiative. And what we do, it has proved to be much more efficient like that. We have two levels of support. What we call the strand 1, which is, let us say, the preparatory work. So in other words, it's where the clusters meet, negotiate, build up a strategy, and with a business plan, and with a roadmap. So this is costly, of course, for them. So we support this first step. And we have a second step, which is the implementation of this strategy. So very often, to go to the strand 2, we select those clusters which has gone through the strand 1. Now, concerning the matchmaking events, well, here you will read the slides. We have organized a lot of such matchmaking events. Our appraisal is that it's very efficient and we have a lot of positive returns from the cluster. Maybe, Nina, you have already participated in such matchmaking events, but it's at least the feedback we receive from the stakeholders. So as you can see, we have organized it not only in the EU, but also outside of the EU. And when we organize it outside of the EU, of course, we do it for the interest of the EU cluster. So it means that there is some interest of the clusters in the EU to build up such partnership because they need to have access to some know-how or because it's a way for them to open a market. And my last slide, it's something which is completely different. It's part of our EU development policy. And we are just starting to do that, and it's really focused on low carbon business action. So we have identified 2 countries, Brazil and Mexico. They are ready to work with the EU just to promote low carbon economy. And so here we are implemented 2 phases. The first one is about technology transfer activities. So here what we do is we try to identify the needs in the EU or outside of the EU. Here in particular, it's outside of the EU. We try to identify potential partners in the EU and outside of the EU. And the second phase is about the cooperation, so the implementation of a joint strategy between clusters in the EU and in Brazil and Mexico, just to implement some actions with a view to increase their efficiency and to reduce the carbon emissions of some product or some activities. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Maybe the last slides, you will have here all the information about where you can find all this information in the EU website. So I thank you for your attention.
Is there any questions for right now? We can also continue later, but yeah.
Okay.
Jean-Luc, I'm the director of French Web Cluster. I would like to know what is the average funding you're giving to a cluster and what kind of expenses are eligible?
Alors for the Go clusters, the average is between 400 and 500,000 euros. It's more or less what we do in general.
And for one cluster, what is the?
But for one cluster, I mean, we don't deal with one cluster. Huh? So we finance the consortia of clusters. So it's up to the cluster to negotiate, to agree, to make a proposal to the Commission as a reply to our call for proposals. And once again, the order of magnitude of the support which are given is between 400 and 500,000 euros. Well, I don't know whether it seems to you huge or not. The information we have got up to now is more or less fit for purpose. So it's something which is. I haven't received any kind of feedback saying, well, you need more. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes.
I'm business developer from Team 2. It's a competitiveness cluster in circular economy in the north of France. I would like to know if it's possible to join an existing cluster.
Alors,
sorry.
Well, it's a complex question. Let me reply very simply. So if you want to reply to some call for proposals, here you can join any kind of consortia. But when the proposal is selected, awarded, we sign a contract with this consortia, and it's done. So you can join them outside of what we can finance. So in other words, what you have to do if you want to use the Go International budget, you have to find your partners before the call for proposals. Huh?
We have one question here.
Beatrice from Tech cluster in France. Also, I had pretty much the same question, and I'll get a little more precise. You said you usually choose clusters which have already had granted financing in the first steps of this program. So that's why we're asking whether we can integrate. For the new calls, they definitely do make a new proposal. So there'll probably be opportunities to add our competences.
Okay.
That was the first, and the second question was more technical. We'll get access to these interesting presentations after the Congress?
I guess so.
I'm turning to Pex.
So
I don't know.
I like the second question. It's easy to be replied. But for the first one, it's exactly the same question. So what I should add also to reply to your question is that we have regular call for proposals every year. So which means that if you are not part of one call for proposal for 1 year, you can do it the next year. So now on your question. On your question, we are completely flexible. So in other words, if you come up asking for proposing a strand 2 proposal, and if we are convinced through your proposal and the argument you are bringing to the Commission that you don't need the strand 1, of course we will finance you. I think that we have already some such example. But the message is that it's much easier if you have been awarded with a strand 1, because here we know that you have end up with a roadmap, with a business plan, with strong partnerships for the long term. So it's easier in a way to be financed in the strand too. But once again, it's not a necessary condition. I'm clear. Okay.
Just a technical question. Is this considered as public money or private money?
What?
The grants.
But the grants, it's public money.
Yes, because this is a problem for a cluster, because we have to balance between public and private money 50-50.
Okay.
That's the point.
No, it's public money, clearly.
Thank you. I think we need to continue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. CATINAT. I think there were a lot of questions because the funding is so crucial for the clusters, but we have a workshop on this topic starting at 12. I don't know if you have a chance to join that workshop, but I'm sure this discussion will continue there. But now we will invite our next speaker, Mr. Alain Crion, former Director for Innovation Office, Ministry of Environment, Sustainable Development and Energy, France. Welcome.
So thank you, Nina. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There are ladies, yes. So it's a great pleasure to be here for this first edition of World Efficiency and the first edition of an interclustering conference held during this event. And I hope it will not be the only one. And maybe as I see that you are organizing with the European Commission interclustering meeting, maybe we can work together for the next edition of the exhibition to have a more huge operation. So I'm very happy to see you all here, and I want particularly to thank our foreign participants, clusters and businessmen who have made a long trip to attend the conference. And I want to thank the French competitiveness clusters concerned with environment and sustainable development that are present here. So you can meet this afternoon in C2C meetings. Last but not the least, I want also to thank the READ exhibition team, and particularly Anne-Gaëlle, I don't know she is here, for the organization and the time she spent in this organization. So now, as a French civil servant, I'm obliged to leave the English language and to speak French, but you have translation from French to English. Quelques mots d'introduction sur le contexte qui est un peu particulier cette année, hein, puisque pour cette fin d'année, la France est sur le devant de la scène en matière de transition écologique et énergétique. Et dans cette dynamique, World Efficiency s'inscrit comme un événement phare dans lequel les entreprises sont amenées à démontrer leurs solutions pour la préservation de notre environnement. Début décembre, des dizaines de milliers de participants convergeront vers le Bourget pour la COP21, pour la 21e conférence des parties. La volonté de notre pays est de faire que cette conférence soit une réussite et permette enfin, j'insiste bien sur le « enfin » parce que c'est important, de prendre des mesures courageuses pour lutter collectivement contre le dérèglement climatique. Alors, bien sûr, nous n'avons pas attendu cet événement pour prendre conscience de l'enjeu de préserver notre planète. Je rappelle que le premier ministère de l'Environnement en France a été créé dans les années 70, donc c'était un secrétariat d'État, mais c'est pas grave. Plus près de nous, dans les années 2009, le ministère de l'Écologie a identifié 19 filières stratégiques qu'on a appelées de l'économie verte, sur lesquelles faire porter nos efforts. Alors ça concerne les énergies renouvelables, le bâtiment, la mobilité bas carbone, l'eau et la gestion de la ressource. Les technologies de l'environnement font également l'objet de plans industriels portés par le ministère de l'économie en relation avec le ministère de l'écologie et d'une réflexion de filière qui vise à structurer les outils nécessaires au développement de ces activités et à lever les freins et verrous de toute nature, y compris réglementaires. Et donc là, je rejoins un travail qui est mené aussi par la Commission européenne dans le groupe EcoApp sur la simplification de la réglementation et qui me semble important en matière d'environnement. Comme l'a rappelé lundi lors de l'ouverture du salon, mardi, pardon, Madame Ségolène Royal, donc notre ministre de l'écologie, la France s'est dotée cette année avec la loi de transition énergétique qui comprend un fort volet lié à l'économie circulaire, d'un outil puissant de mise en œuvre de la transition, outil dont il est essentiel de remarquer qu'il inscrit clairement la transition énergétique dans une perspective de croissance de l'économie, ce qui n'est pas toujours le cas. On parle aussi beaucoup de décroissance. Là, on est vraiment dans une perspective de croissance de l'économie. Et qu'il met en avant un nouveau modèle de croissance basé sur un meilleur respect de l'environnement, mais aussi sur la croissance économique et l'innovation. Alors, l'innovation est clairement, dans le secteur de la transition, un vecteur puissant de changement, ainsi qu'un accélérateur de ce changement. Et cette analyse, on la partage bien entendu avec la Commission européenne et avec beaucoup d'autres pays européens. C'est d'ailleurs pour cela que l'investissement dans l'innovation en matière de technologie environnementale et énergétique est aujourd'hui une des priorités clairement affichées par le gouvernement. Au-delà du rôle majeur joué par les pôles de compétitivité dans l'innovation collaborative, j'y reviendrai, notamment au travers des projets du Fonds unique interministériel, le gouvernement a souhaité mettre en avant, dans le cadre de ce qu'on appelle en France les investissements d'avenir. Alors, pour nos amis étrangers, les investissements d'avenir, c'est un programme qui a été lancé en 2010, qui a été doté en déphase de 47 milliards d'euros pour faire passer un pas à l'industrie française et à la compétitivité de l'industrie française, mais aussi pour résoudre un certain nombre de sujets de modernisation de la recherche. Donc la thématique des démonstrateurs de la transition écologique et énergétique, ainsi que celle des véhicules et de la mobilité de demain, est une thématique prioritaire et a été dotée notamment sur la période 2010-2017 de plus de 3 milliards d'euros, ce qui est relativement important. Des outils structurants ont par ailleurs été initiés, tels que ce qu'on appelle les instituts de la transition énergétique, qui sont des consortiums de recherche regroupant chercheurs publics et chercheurs du secteur privé. Ces instituts sont aujourd'hui en relation notamment avec les pôles de compétitivité, actifs dans des secteurs aussi divers que le photovoltaïque, les réseaux électriques intelligents, la filière bois, la ville durable ou l'efficacité énergétique. Les premiers résultats des projets initiés en 2010-2011 sont très encourageants, que ce soit en matière de développement de technologies plus respectueuses de l'environnement ou en matière de développement d'activités vertes. Donc voilà un contexte que j'ai voulu volontairement assez concis, parce qu'on aurait pu parler du contexte pendant des heures. Il y a des tas d'autres sujets d'accompagnement de l'innovation en matière de transition écologique et énergétique. Mais je crois que ce qui est important de souligner, c'est l'intérêt porté par le gouvernement en matière d'innovation dans ce système. Alors, les pôles de compétitivité, puisque c'est ceux-ci qui nous intéressent aujourd'hui, sont, en ce qui concerne leur modèle d'ailleurs, une spécificité française, puisque Michel a parlé tout à l'heure des World Clusters. C'est quelque chose qui a été lancé sous présidence française de l'Union européenne en fin 2008. C'est ça. Et pour revenir à ce que sont les pôles de compétitivité français, il faut revenir à ce qu'étaient les fondements de cette politique lors de son lancement en 2005. Donc, les pôles de compétitivité ont aujourd'hui 10 ans. La politique a été lancée il y a maintenant 10 ans, à partir de 4 constats relativement simples, qui étaient à la fois des constats qui s'appuyaient sur des travaux que tout le monde connaît, les travaux de Porter, les travaux de Beccatini, mais aussi en France d'ailleurs, les travaux de Michel Aglietta, qui avait défini la notion de cluster dès 1982, donc bien avant Michael Porter. Et ces 4 constats, ils sont quand même assez reliés à la situation française. Premier constat, c'est que la compétitivité des industries des pays développés est intimement liée à leur capacité à innover, car il est plus difficile de trouver des marges de manœuvre sur les autres déterminants de la compétitivité. C'est un constat qu'on partage tous. Et donc la mission principale des pôles de compétitivité, celle qui leur a été fixée, est de créer, comme leur nom l'indique, cette compétitivité par l'innovation. Le deuxième constat, c'est que cette innovation doit être dynamique, c'est-à-dire ne pas suivre un schéma linéaire, mais au contraire pouvoir permettre les échanges croisés et fréquents entre le monde académique et le monde industriel, ce qui a été théorisé d'ailleurs au niveau du manuel d'Oslo par l'innovation circulaire. Hein. C'est un des handicaps principaux du système d'innovation français, et c'est une des missions prioritaires des pôles de compétitivité que de créer ces passerelles. Ça permet pour nos amis étrangers de mieux découvrir le système, ça permet aussi pour nos amis français de se rappeler quelle était leur mission initiale, des fois. Troisième prérequis, la diffusion de l'innovation doit se faire tout au long de la chaîne de valeur, impliquant une plus grande ouverture vers l'autre. Et les pôles de compétitivité favorisent cette mise en relation entre égaux. J'insiste sur le mot égaux, c'est-à-dire que dans les pôles de compétitivité, il y a des grandes entreprises, il y a des PME, il y a des laboratoires publics, et chacun a la même part. Il n'y a pas de modèle dominant, y compris dans des secteurs qui sont très organisés en termes de chaîne de valeur, comme l'aéronautique. Dernier point, les effets d'agglomération sont accélérateurs de la transmission de connaissances et de partage de celles-ci. Le processus d'innovation est le fruit d'une forte intégration des acteurs d'une filière industrielle, et les pôles de compétitivité, comme beaucoup de clusters d'ailleurs, sont concentrés géographiquement sur des territoires pertinents. Donc c'est donc sur ce modèle qu'ont été construites en France les pôles de compétitivité qui intègrent dans leur gouvernance et dans leurs priorités à la fois des représentants du monde de l'industrie, de la recherche amont, de la formation. On est tout à fait conscient que ce modèle est parfois en décalage avec celui développé dans d'autres pays, y compris des pays européens, dans lesquels les clusters sont avant tout des outils de développement industriel et n'intègrent pas forcément cette notion de recherche amont, ou dans des pays comme le Japon qui ont clairement fait le choix d'afficher qu'il existe à la fois des clusters industriels et des clusters de recherche. Sur la base de ce cahier des charges, on a identifié en 2005, enfin depuis 2005 d'ailleurs, plus de 80 pôles de compétitivité. Comme il y a eu des délabellisations, comme il y a eu des fusions de pôles, aujourd'hui nous avons 71 pôles de compétitivité. Parmi ces 71 pôles, 30% environ, une vingtaine, se déclarent ouvertement et se déclarent comme ayant comme priorité principale la transition écologique et énergétique. Mais si on fait l'analyse de ce que nous appelons les feuilles de route technologiques des pôles de compétitivité, on voit bien qu'à peu près 50% des pôles, c'est-à-dire 35 à peu près, intègrent dans leur réflexion stratégique la prise en compte des priorités de la transition écologique. Alors, que sont aujourd'hui ces pôles de compétitivité ? Qualifiés à leur naissance d'usines à projet, c'est-à-dire d'instruments destinés à pallier la difficile émergence de projets collaboratifs, c'était vraiment le but initial des pôles, donc de projets collaboratifs entre entreprises et universités, mais également entre grandes entreprises et PME. Mission dans laquelle, dans le domaine de la transition énergétique et écologique, ils ont parfaitement réussi, puisqu'on estime que dans ce domaine, environ 150 à 200 projets d'innovation portés par les pôles sont financés par an, que ce soit au niveau communautaire, au niveau national, et notamment dans le cadre du Fonds unique interministériel, qui, bon an, mal an, apporte entre 30 et 40 millions d'euros au projet de la transition écologique et énergétique, ou que ce soit au niveau des collectivités territoriales, puisque les régions ont la capacité, et le font d'ailleurs, de financer des projets de recherche et d'innovation. Donc cet objectif a été atteint, mais les pôles ont peu à peu élargi leur champ de compétences vers une prise en compte plus aval du processus d'innovation, incluant l'accompagnement des entreprises et notamment des PME dans le suivi du processus d'innovation. La levée de verrous liés au financement privé des entreprises, alors là on a une spécificité française qu'on retrouve moins dans d'autres pays, qui est le difficile accès des PME au financement privé. La valorisation des résultats des projets d'innovation et bien entendu la coopération internationale au service de leurs membres. Aujourd'hui, les pôles ont su développer, au-delà de l'aspect opérationnel de leur métier d'usine à produits d'avenir, des compétences en matière de relais des préoccupations de leurs membres qui leur permettent d'être associés aux réflexions stratégiques. Et ce mot est important parce que en matière de coopération internationale, il y a non seulement l'opérationnel, mais il y a aussi le fait de pouvoir porter collectivement des réflexions stratégiques. Donc des réflexions stratégiques sur leur secteur d'activité, d'être les interlocuteurs privilégiés des financeurs de l'innovation pour l'accompagnement des entreprises et des projets de celles-ci. Ils sont aussi notamment dans les secteurs relatifs à la transition écologique et énergétique. Compte tenu de l'émergence très récente de ces secteurs en matière industrielle et notamment au niveau des petites et moyennes entreprises, en France, dans ces domaines, on a toujours été très bien outillés avec de très grands groupes, mais l'émergence de petites et moyennes entreprises dans ce secteur est relativement récente. Donc les pôles ont été les catalyseurs des actions collectives des entreprises, notamment au niveau régional et en relation forte avec les autorités locales. Leur spectre de compétences est ainsi fortement élargi au fil du temps. Et je dois dire que moi qui les suis depuis 10 ans, que c'est assez remarquable si l'on considère que ce sont en général des structures de petite taille et dont les budgets sont de plus en plus contraints, notamment du fait de la baisse des finances publiques. La question qui était posée tout à l'heure à Michel CATINAT n'était pas innocente, c'est-à-dire que nos financeurs publics, et notamment le ministère de l'économie, considèrent que toute subvention ou tout financement privé pouvant venir du travail des pôles, pouvant venir du travail des pôles, doit normalement venir en diminution de la dotation budgétaire des pôles. La question n'était pas si innocente que ça. La coopération internationale fait bien entendu partie des priorités que se sont définies les pôles. La coopération internationale entre pôles de compétitivité et clusters, la question qu'on s'est posée, c'est que doit être cette coopération internationale? Quelle peut être sa valeur ajoutée par rapport notamment, mais pas seulement, aux objectifs de la transition écologique, et dans un calendrier plus contraint, puisque quelque part on est dans ce calendrier, c'est quelle peut être sa valeur ajoutée par rapport à la COP21 et par rapport aux objectifs de la COP21. Lorsque nous avons lancé la politique des pôles, la vision que pouvaient avoir un certain nombre d'acteurs de la politique était simple. Les pôles devaient agir sur leur écosystème local, avoir des actions très autocentrées, mettre en priorité leur mission d'usine à projet. Donc ça, c'était clair. 2005, c'était une vision très autocentrée. Heureusement, on s'est rendu compte très rapidement que cette vision était vraiment trop restrictive et qu'il était nécessaire d'accompagner les pôles dans un développement dynamique de leur action internationale, et aussi ceci sur au moins 3 axes essentiels. Le premier axe, c'est que l'innovation ouverte est désormais globalisée. Et les bonnes compétences, les bonnes équipes ne se trouvent pas forcément au coin de la rue. Il est nécessaire de les identifier, de les rencontrer. En cela, la relation privilégiée que peuvent nouer des clusters entre eux est un élément essentiel de cette recherche des meilleurs partenaires en matière d'innovation. Et je crois que c'est important de le souligner. Un certain nombre d'actions menées dans le passé ont d'ailleurs permis de nouer des relations profitables, non seulement pour les pôles et clusters, mais également et surtout pour leurs membres, et permis de faire émerger des coopérations scientifiques et technologiques fertiles. Juste un exemple qui me vient en tête, que je prendrai, c'est l'action menée notamment avec un certain nombre de pôles présents dans cette salle, lors de la célébration du 400e anniversaire de la création de la ville de Québec, qui a permis de faire émerger, d'une meilleure connaissance mutuelle entre les clusters, de nombreux projets entre entreprises françaises et laboratoires québécois ou inversement. Donc, je crois qu'il y a Trimatech ici qui pourra éventuellement nous en parler un peu plus tard dans la journée. Deuxième constat, c'est qu'il ne sert à rien d'innover si personne ne le sait. Donc ça, je crois que c'est important. On a un vrai problème de communication. Alors, pour la puissance publique, de communication autour de nos outils. La question sur Com tout à l'heure montrait bien qu'un certain nombre de personnes n'avaient pas eu accès, malgré tous les efforts qui ont été faits, à cette information. Et inversement, il y a un vrai problème de communication sur ce que savent faire les entreprises. Alors pas forcément les grandes entreprises, parce que elles ont les moyens, elles peuvent le faire savoir, mais surtout les PME, qui n'ont pas forcément les moyens de faire connaître et de valoriser leur innovation. De par l'action collective qu'ils ont la compétence de mener, les pôles peuvent ainsi amplifier la reconnaissance du caractère innovant d'une recherche, d'une innovation, valoriser une PME. La présence de 14 pôles français sur World Efficiency répond à l'évidence à cette préoccupation, comme la présence de pôles français dans d'autres opérations menées notamment en partenariat avec Business France. Mais au-delà de cette présence dans des salons, ce qui est important, c'est de rencontrer d'autres clusters et d'échanger sur effectivement quelles sont les forces, quelles sont les compétences des acteurs des clusters. Et puis l'innovation n'est pas que de la recherche, ça je crois qu'on est tous d'accord sur ce constat, mais également bien entendu la création de valeur autour des résultats de cette recherche. Alors qui dit création de valeur dit marché, et donc il faut aller chercher les marchés. Et donc la coopération intercluster permet de faciliter la recherche de marché pour les entreprises, des pôles de compétitivité, notamment les PME, par deux voies, en fin de compte. Par les partenariats technologiques qui peuvent être noués, et puis aussi, bien entendu, par des partenariats commerciaux. Donc cette démarche ne peut être que favorisée par des relations étroites entre clusters qui permettront de trouver les meilleurs partenaires. J'ai bien écouté ce que disait Michel CATINAT tout à l'heure. Ce que peut faire l'État au niveau national, c'est accompagner ces pôles de compétitivité, c'est accompagner ces clusters. Et d'ailleurs, on a fait un certain nombre de choses. Jean-Noël, ici présent, pourra éventuellement parler de ce que nous faisons dans le cadre du partenariat technologique européen pour aider les pôles de compétitivité à accompagner leurs entreprises sur des programmes communautaires sur Horizon 2020. Parce que c'est un secret pour personne de dire que la France n'est pas très brillante globalement dans la participation au programme communautaire et qu'il faut qu'on mette en place des outils pour être un peu plus brillant. Et donc, on a mis en place ces outils pour accompagner les PME des pôles de compétitivité. Et clairement, ces outils ne se conçoivent que si, au niveau communautaire, il y a des outils qui permettent de faire travailler les pôles ensemble. Donc, c'est ce que fait la Commission. Et je pense que la répartition des rôles entre nous aidons nos pôles à faire et la Commission met en place un cadre coopératif et collaboratif est quelque chose de nécessaire. Voilà. Si en tant que ministère, nous avons souhaité nous associer à cette première conférence d'interclustering entre pôles de compétitivité français et clusters internationaux, c'est parce que nous sommes fortement convaincus qu'en matière de développement durable et de lutte contre le changement climatique, il convient d'ajouter une quatrième dimension à ce que je viens de décrire. Et cette dimension, c'est celle de la capacité des clusters collectivement à porter un message clair et audible sur ce qu'est l'innovation dans les secteurs de la transition écologique et énergétique. Je parlais tout à l'heure de la réflexion stratégique que pouvaient avoir les pôles. Ce qu'il faut partager aussi, ce n'est pas seulement les PME, la relation entre les PME, c'est aussi cette réflexion stratégique pour avoir une réflexion stratégique commune. Et la Commission, d'ailleurs, s'appuie sur les clusters dans ces exercices de réflexion stratégique. Donc, le rôle des pôles dans la recherche de solutions pour une meilleure prise en compte du fait environnemental. En effet, les pôles sont les plus proches de cette innovation, capables de détecter celle qui permettra un saut qualitatif et quantitatif dans la résolution des problèmes. Ils sont les plus à même de porter collectivement la contribution des PME innovantes à l'objectif de lutte contre le changement climatique. Alors, à titre personnel, donc ça, j'encourage les pôles à saisir l'opportunité de leur présence ici pour porter à l'attention de la COP21 un message collectif clair sur le rôle de l'innovation dans la lutte contre le changement climatique et le rôle des PME dans la lutte contre le changement climatique et la valeur ajoutée que peut apporter la logique même de cluster dans la résolution des problèmes posés par le dérèglement climatique. Voilà, il ne me reste plus qu'à vous souhaiter des travaux fructueux et espérer que cette journée sera une réussite par les retombées qu'elle pourra générer. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Griot. Do we have any questions? I think the timing is that we are not going to have a long panel discussion, so if you have questions, you might want to ask them now. And then luckily we have those workshops where we hopefully can discuss all these matters with at least among the clusters. Yes.
additional information
Yes.
about what you said concerning the need for the cluster to be known in terms and recognized, but also known for what they can do. In our policy Go International, what we are doing is that not only we select the best project to be granted, but also what we do, when we have received some proposal in terms of cooperation that we consider that of high quality, even if we can't finance them because of the lack of budget, what we do, we include them in all our matchmaking events. So in other words, what we try to do is to help these clusters to be known. So we have this kind also of actions which could be of interest for the clusters, even if they don't receive some money from the EU.
Money is important, but it's not everything.
Exactly.
Daphné de Féligonde du Pôle Haut, juste une précision à apporter pour développer le point que tu as abordé. D'abord, on a contribué à organiser cette journée. On est inscrit dans une action internationale depuis un peu plus d'un an maintenant. Et on est effectivement partenaire avec le pôle mer Méditerranée et le pôle Trimatech d'un PPTE, Programme de partenariat technologique européen, qui consiste à accompagner nos PME à l'accès au financement européen, en particulier H2020. Et donc l'objectif est d'accompagner effectivement 4 PME, que 4 PME au final aient obtenu un financement européen. On a signé également des accords de coopération avec d'autres clusters, mais ça, Monsieur Carré en parlera tout à l'heure dans son intervention. Donc effectivement, c'est important de développer la coopération internationale et à commencer par la coopération européenne.
Yes, sorry. Camille Durand from the Green Exchange in Denmark. Yeah, just a thought and a question for everyone. I think I studied the question of advancing clean tech innovation ecosystems for a special edition of our talk show that we did last year. And one thing we found out is that the key success factors for commercialization of clean tech innovation is different startups and different companies are at different stages, and some are actually ready for commercialization, some are not. Some are interested in some specific markets like Asia. Some want to stay more domestic or European-based. In the way we organize those international clusters, how could we reflect those differences and those different stages at which the organizations are, because this is really when you're going to see the impact and you can create focus groups and focus actions. Also, maybe with some presence on those international markets, we know with China how crucial it is to have permanent presence over there. So I wonder if anyone has any thoughts on this.
So I don't know if I have. I don't know if I have an answer to your question, because I think it's not a subject of public organization. It's a subject of actors. So each cluster has to define the targets and the way to reach these targets. I'm not sure that the EU level you can answer this question. I want just to add something that I've not said before. It's not the answer to your question, but what is important also, we have today clusters from or dealing with environment, but by evidence, environmental technologies are cross-linking technologies. So how to involve clusters dealing with biotechnologies, how to involve clusters dealing with IT, because we see today that environmental technologies has to use big data, has to use microbiology, has to use so technologies developed in other sectors. So the matchmaking between clusters has to be larger than only environmental clusters. But for your question, maybe Michel has some answer, but
so it's an important point that you are raising. What we do is that we try to pre-select a little bit through the themes and through the regional orientation. So in other words, when we organize some matchmaking events, what we do is we have clear identified domains on which some SMEs could cooperate, and also we try to have, in some cases, some geographical orientation. Particularly if we have a matchmaking event in Japan or I don't know where, of course the message is that if you are an SME and you want to enter the Japanese market, it's for you. If you want to enter the Cameroonese market, it's not for you. So that's the way we can pre-select a little bit. But of course, as you said, it's not enough. And I don't think that as public authorities we have to pre-select more than that. In a way, it's up to the SMEs if they decide to go to matchmaking events with these two main characteristics I've mentioned, the domain and the geographical orientation. It's up to them to find a partner which will meet its own interest. If this SME want just to develop on a European market, well, it's up to him in the matchmaking event to find the right partner. If they want to go outside of the EU, that's the same. I don't think that as public authorities we have to be more selective than that, because if we are too much selective, then we could, hinder some interest by some SMEs.
So it's what we are doing in France, because we have signed an agreement with what we call Business France, with the entity in charge of supporting international development, international actions for SMEs, and so we have signed this, and in this agreement it's clearly said that who decide is not Business France. Who decide is the clusters, are the clusters. And they are deciding the destination and the target. So what we can do is to establish a framework, and after this is the responsibility of the actors in the field.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is a very interesting topic, and I like your question very much. This was actually already in Eco Club. When 2009, when I did this survey, this came up as many of the clusters. I think French clusters, among the others, were saying that it's not our job to be international. It's the Business France or some other organizations in our country who are doing this, but I don't think it's enough anymore. And I think that's why the cluster networks are so important, because the clusters have a huge task if they're trying to help the really early stage with their challenges, and at the same time those who are kind of ready to go global. And that's why we need the networks, because in that way we can pick two ready ones from Finland and then 2-3 from Denmark and kind of put them together and facilitate and I think this is a good way to go to the Nordics. We have two clusters here still, so I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation. So we start with Per Olof Lostad from OREC, Norway. Welcome.
Thank you, Nina. I'm from also region Energy and Environment Cluster, and I will do the presentation for ICN, and because we are a member of ICN also, so that's why. This is a map of the clusters that today are a member in ICN. I think it's around 14. I haven't counted it, so but as far as I remember, it should be around 14. And we are covering, almost all of the world, as you see. South Africa, Japan, We have a cooperation with Korea also, but it's not included yet. And also United States, Canada, Quebec was mentioned. We have the yearly conference last year in Montreal. Yeah. If you just, how do I have this? Yeah, that's good. First to say something on what we see as some of the challenges, as already been mentioned. This will be a bit different from different countries, but if you ask them what is making most of the global demand, you get these answers. Norway and Finland and Sweden is a bit special because reducing cost in energy is impossible in our countries. The energy is so cheap, so it's not possible. And that's a challenge in itself. We have also looked at what makes the constraints, or what are the clusters working and struggling, and with the clusters, I mean the companies actually, because I mean we are not struggling with this. And how can cooperation between the clusters helping to work with these constraints and coming over the constraints? That's I think that's our main topic, and the main topic for ICN is to increase the business opportunities for the members, actually. So ICN is and would like to be an exclusive network of Cleantech cluster from around the world. That means we are looking for one cluster in each country. In France, it's TENERRDIS, by chance, I think. And that does not exclude the other clusters. So we are working with a strategy in Norway, how we can include, we have a cluster in clean marine tech and so on, and how could we include them into the ICN work. And the purpose is, as I said, to generate new business opportunities. It started in 2009, and Copenhagen Capacity was one of the leaders of one of the founders of ICN, and OREC was quite an early member. And it has its legal entity in Denmark, and we are now actually looking for what to say, general manager of the cluster who will be situated in Copenhagen. Yeah, ICN benefits from services from the European Commission, as has been said already. I think we have had three projects that have been supported for now, as I can remember, and we have asked some money for new projects. I know. We are a member of the International GRIOT study. We are participating in a survey conducted by the University of Amsterdam and on these topics then. So what do we give to the partners or to the members? We give access to all the members' knowledge about their country actually. So if you are a member of ICN, you will have you can get the same knowledge as the local members from an ICN partner. That means that if you are a member of ICN and you need to go to South Africa for a week, or one of your companies need to go to South Africa, we will help you with that. The ICN partner in South Africa will give you a free office for a week. I will come back to that later, I remember now, but it doesn't matter. We will help you to get the knowledge about the market in South Africa and so on. So that's because that's the thing we can do together. And also access to the expertise. And to do this, we have launched what we call ICN Passport. So all the members will get an ICN partner, and that will give you the rights on the local office. So, yeah, the working office I mentioned. we're connecting with key contacts I also mentioned, and actually we did that in South Africa, Orek, for some weeks ago. We connected one of our companies with the possibility to have the market access in South Africa, which is quite important because this is very small. I got applause a bit early. It's small companies who can't, SMEs, who is early on the market, who need to go abroad, and who doesn't have the possibility to get all this knowledge by themselves. We are the fields that our clusters are working within is, as you see, environment, energy, transport, eco-mobility, chemistry industry, and resources, and it's a bit different in the different country. In Norway, we are mostly focused on renewable energy and technology connected to renewable energy, including waste and waste-to-energy. But it's a bit different. It's not the same in all the countries. This is the board of directors. Nice pictures, I think. So you can see all of us there and all the members. Oh, that was a bit fast. Some results. The ICN passport we launched this year. The Cool Sweep project is in its last year, and I must say it wouldn't be possible to make a Cool Sweep project as we did without ICN, because as was mentioned before, you need the partners before you start to develop the project, and the partners, and you also need the industrial partners. So it should be. You should know the partners quite well before you start to make this kind of projects. So I think the Cool Suite project is a very good example of how we could collaborate. And I know they gave a speech yesterday, I think, a Cool Sweep in Brussels on how to do it. The Cool Sweep project was a waste to energy project. It's developed to be more or less a waste management project, and is now taking into it the circular economy thoughts that was also mentioned. And I think it will be continued in a new project for next year, which will be more or less connected to this circular economy, I think. So they are now starting to developing a new project. Then you see also the Lombardy Energy Cleantech cluster and EcoWorld Styria, who had a workshop 2015 on the World Expo, and some other contacts that had been made. So that's how the members are using ICN, and that's how we are using ICN. Also, we make collaboration with one of the two clusters to make some other projects. So we are working on two now. We are working on one project with Hamburg, and local municipalities in outside Oslo and Hamburg region together to look at smart energy solutions for cities as a working program, actually, working title. Yeah, and I won't comment on that. And of course, as it's been said before, that business development and innovation is the core of everything, and is the main goal for ICN and also for our local. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. Nice network, isn't it? Good picture.
Any questions?
Good morning. My name is Gilles Colson from Greenwin, Belgian cluster. Just a basic question is, what is the membership fee to get access? Because I saw the interesting question.
I think it's 8,000 euros. Yeah, it is. That made the Norwegian have to pay 30% more next year. because yeah.
Everybody in the network, so the current partners are also paying the membership fee? Okay.
Yeah, everybody is paying 8,000.
Okay, thank you.
So do you have French clusters in your network?
Yes, TENERRDIS, who was supposed to be here today, but I'm standing for them. That's another way to work together. So.
Guillaume from the PEX, the French Cleantech Network. How do you guys work together with the Global Cleantech Cluster Association and the International Cleantech Network? Do you know each other? Do you have any type of bridges between you? I heard there's one for free, the other one is for 8,000 euros, so I guess it makes a difference, but do you have interacting?
OREC has taken part in both of them, actually. So we are connected to GCCA and also to ICN. I know that also the partner in Montreal is doing that. So because the clusters are now the organizations are different. I don't know if Nina completely agree with me, but I see ICN is more focusing maybe on developing the clusters and making the clusters stronger so it can promote the companies. GCCA is more focusing on the internationalization and maybe to the market, the companies to the market maybe. So it's a bit different, and I personally see that we have very good use of both of the organizations, actually. So I don't know if you agree. Or
well, I would like to comment. 2010, we had the first GCCA meeting in Finland when we founded, and since that we've had every year usually a global meeting and then regional meetings for clusters. In the first meeting we had 7 from 7 different countries, and the idea is to share best practices. So it is also kind of you can learn from the other cluster. We have clusters that are, some of them are very new. They need to learn from the ones that have been working for 10 years, and they can kind of save lots of time if they interview an old cluster manager and not try to invent everything themselves. And also the older clusters can learn so much from the new ones because they have innovative ideas. But yes, maybe in general we have been focusing much more on helping the companies. So that's kind of how it started. We wanted to connect the companies. So, and it's, I think we want to keep it very open network, because if you choose just one cluster from one country, in the Nordic countries it works because we are very small countries, and you basically you have one good connection and you can connect to all the players in the country. But what about the big countries? Impossible for someone in northern France to know the region in south. And also the clusters are so different. We have those clusters that are very focused on like energy, and then there are clusters that are cleantech, very wide range of technologies and solutions. So the renewable energy cluster cannot really help someone who is looking for something in bioeconomics or green chemistry. So that's why you need to have a wide range of clusters. But I think both networks are important, and networks in general are important. So no competition there, I would say. But I think it's time for Nenop from Clean to present. So welcome.
I think we are already past our time. So I think you have the wrong presentation. Can you? Okay, I'll just very quickly try to give you an idea as to how we work internationally in Clean, because we've had substantial discussions about the importance of internationalizing our companies. So I think in the next 5 minutes, that's what I will cover, because apart from that, you know we are a cluster, and maybe we have certain nuances that are different from each other, but more or less we try to do the same thing. But this is quite interesting in terms of how Clean is working internationally. And some of the drivers for that is, of course, challenges outside or in international markets are pretty complex, especially when it comes to environmental challenges, because there are interrelated factors that make those challenges. And then secondly, our approach has been to look at it from a pull and a demand point of view rather than trying to push solutions in some of these markets. And that also means that from a Danish perspective, in order to remain competitive, we have to find new ways and means of trying to beat the market, especially when it comes to dealing with bigger companies such as those in France and in the US and Germany, UK, etc. We are very focused on involving SMEs, and our approach is to try and bring holistic solutions. So we kind of aggregate technologies rather than providing technologies as solutions, but look at solutions as a whole, which is the holistic approach we have adopted. And finally, we are focused on the triple helix form of collaboration, which means that we would very much like to bring in the public sector and the universities from Denmark to be a part of the solution. And this is, in our approach, the technologies are the short-term solutions, but the more softer side, the capacity building, by bringing in the universities and the public authorities like the municipalities, is the long-term approach, and both these have to work in parallel if you need to succeed. I will also try to give you an example of one of the projects that we have done. This is a river in Mumbai. Most of you probably know the city of Mumbai, 22 million people. And this river flows through the heart of the city, and this is what it looks at the origin. But just a few kilometers downstream, this is the state of the river. And this is what I mean by a complex challenge. But this is very exciting for us, because the more complex it is, we know that it is not been solved, and that kinds of activates us to see how we can address this. And some of you have heard that Copenhagen has this beautiful harbor bath, which has been developed over the last 30 years, but was once a very contaminated and polluted harbor. So we want to use that experience and then try to see how we can replicate this in the city of Mumbai. And the way we have approached this is the model, and I think Alain also mentioned about innovation not being linear but being dynamic. And this is a kind of a dynamic model that we have developed internally to try and address some of these difficult environmental challenges. And it has basically 4 elements which are not so different. I mean, it's not rocket science here that I'm talking about, which is pull. So I mentioned that there is an inherent demand or a need for a solution, and you saw the river as one example of that. So that becomes a starting point. Then we Clean analyzes the landscape to see which are the relevant companies, stakeholders from both the sides that we should engage in. And that also goes back to the gentleman's point, I forget your name, as to when you start involving different agencies that are at different maturity levels. So that's the process of analysis that we undertake. And the third is to organize both these groups. So let's say if I take the example in Mumbai, the Indian and the Danish groups who are going to contribute to the solution, to organize and help build that relationship, because at the end of the day, relationships is a very key element, especially in these developing countries, but I think in anywhere in the world, relationships matter a lot. So after the process of organization, we enter the co-creation phase, which is basically jointly developing the right solution for the river. You cannot take a solution from Copenhagen, or you cannot expect that the Copenhagen harbor bath, you can replicate it in Mumbai, because the environment is completely different, the culture, the political setup, the society is different. And therefore, the process of co-creation is very important if you want to make a solution successful. So the idea behind this is a continuous model. So you keep going round and round and round. So it's a kind of spiral thing. And the more you engage in this process, the stronger the solution is, and therefore the more competitive, the Danish Cleantech in this aspect, when we talk about, becomes. And sometimes it's not, you don't follow one after the other, but you can see those lines that are going through, and you can very easily jump or, overcome some of those processes. So this is what we call the competitiveness amplification model. And I just want to show you very quickly that what you see on the left is the current state, and through the process of the competitiveness amplification model, we hope to, in the future, develop something which is more sustainable, which is more citizen-friendly, and can be used by the citizens, because today it's all slums, and it's kind of an open drain, sewer system. But hopefully with this process, we can do some changes. The project itself, I think, will take about 10 years at least, to be optimistic. But it has just taken us 2 years to do the model of coming to the stage of building the solution. So that should kind of give you a flavor as to how Clean works internationally. I'm, of course, open for questions. And I have a lot of different ideas also what we should do better. But yeah, I know we are short of time as well. I just have not a question, but a discussion with you, Michel. Some of these projects, or all of these projects, are time-bound, right? So the funding is for a certain period of time, and that's a challenge as a cluster. And it's like a water pump, because you are drawing on the water pump, the hand pump for water. The water doesn't come out immediately. It comes out after a couple of pumps, priming, right? Priming, we call it in technical terms. But we never know when the water is actually going to come out, and suddenly the plug is pulled and the funding dries down. And as cluster managers, it becomes natural that when the project is over, it is it goes into the shelf, and then a new project comes to my table, and I start executing on that. While this project that is put in the shelf hasn't seen the light of day, but because the project is over formally, the funding is over, the report has been made, the deliverables have been submitted, it's out of mind, out of sight. And that's, I think, maybe the Commission is also monitoring projects after they have completed to see what impact they are creating. So the impact assessment of the funds you are providing is also quite important, and maybe it's being done and I'm just unaware of it, but if not, then I think it's an important point to consider.
In general, all our instruments, as you said, have a time included in the project, with some flexibility, because sometimes it's much longer terms than for some other project. But in the case of this specific project, according to me, if we could help, it will be through the partnerships instrument. According to me, that's how it should be done. So in other words, here what has to build up is to have a kind of agreement between India and the EU to use these instruments of the development policy of the EU. And then when you have a political agreement, here this kind of support by public money could fit much more with a very long-term project as your project. And here what we can do is to help the companies or the clusters having the technologies to develop the project altogether. This we can do, certainly. What's happening?
It's time. That means it's time now.
It's time.
Just a question, because we have the same problem in France. So we are financing maybe the first step of a project and innovation, and we are helping people to have other financing. For example, in your case, could it be multilateral financing from Banque Européenne d'investissement ou Banque asiatique de développement? Could it be that?
It could be. I mean, one of the problems is when financial institutions invest, they expect a certain rate of return, right? And these projects are typically not geared for that. So from a business point of view, this is not an interesting project. This is more a project from a societal point of view. So the challenges come when you bring in banks or private investors or even multilateral investors, institutions that invest. Their expectation becomes slightly different. Of course, if the Indian authorities can find money through, let's say, World Bank, but that again kind of makes the process a little more complicated, which it already is, but then getting that aspect into a project like this it becomes quite challenging. But I mean, in this particular project, luckily the local authority has some amount of money, so they can support pilot projects. They can support a certain degree of, let's say, feasibility study or a master plan for the river and things like that. But over a period of 10 years to also, because there are a lot of slums here, you need to relocate people, you have to build alternate housing. And so those are the complexities that are there in a project like this. But having said that, I think there is no option, because you cannot let people live in that situation. It has to, I mean, there is no option. There is no second solution to this. But then finance becomes a big hurdle, because the companies, you know, they're there to make money, basically. So, I don't know.
Okay, just a reflection. This is not the only Indian city facing these problems. This is not the only city in the world facing this problem. You can have the same situation in Mexico, you can have the same situation in other countries. From the clusters, French clusters point of view, what we need is demonstration tools abroad to demonstrate the capacity of the enterprises, and can this be considered as a demonstration, as a vitrine for technologies that can be implemented in such situations?
Absolutely. The question is to her or to okay.
All the room.
Yeah. I mean, from a Danish point of view, yes, we have 7 companies, out of which 3 are SMEs and 4 are slightly bigger, but at a global level, I think they are still also quite small companies. And the aim was to bring them together and look at different aspects. So there's flood forecasting, there's water quality, there's sewage treatment, there's waste management, and then there is urban planning. So all these companies provide or complement each other in trying to give a holistic solution. But for us, this has been a showcase, a demonstration, right? And you can replicate this in Jakarta, which has the same problem, or in Bangladesh, which has the same problem. So you're absolutely right. And I think we need to find kind of a complete model where we can then, maybe at a European level, use this as a model and, you know, take it to different cities in Asia or Africa or Southern America.
Oui, juste un petit complément. Effectivement, rien qu'en Inde, Rien qu'en Inde, il y a 100 smart cities qui sont déterminées pour avoir un travail particulier du point de vue de la restructuration complète de la ville, 100 smart cities. Parmi ces 100 smart cities, il y en a 20 qui vont être retenues par le gouvernement indien pour avoir un financement prioritaire, notamment avec des fonds de l'AFD. Donc on est en train de commencer à travailler là-dessus pour voir comment on peut s'inscrire dans cette démarche-là avec l'AFD et avec le gouvernement français, puisque suite à la visite du Premier ministre indien, M. Modi, récemment en France, M. Hollande a annoncé 1,5 milliard de fonds qui seraient consacrés à la restructuration de ces villes. On a terminé ? Alors, je voulais juste vous remercier d'abord tous les intervenants qui ont parlé ce matin. Nous vous enverrons leur intervention après avoir obtenu leur accord, si vous le souhaitez. De toute façon, ça a été filmé, donc ça sera sur le site de World Efficiency. Et je voulais vous préciser qu'il y a maintenant 3 ateliers de travail. Vous les avez sur le programme à 11h45. Il s'appelle Clusters Interacting Program. Donc vous avez 3 thématiques différentes dans la salle Genève, dans la salle Nairobi et dans la salle Rome. Et donc c'est dans le premier atelier, dans la salle Genève, que M. Carré interviendra. Je l'ai évoqué tout à l'heure. Et donc j'ai mis quelques documentations sur le pôle eau à l'entrée en anglais. Vous avez une plaquette de présentation. La présentation du réseau Friends Water Team, qui est la marque des entreprises de l'eau à l'étranger, ainsi qu'une plaquette sur le salon Hydrogaia, le salon international de l'eau que nous organisons à Montpellier au mois de mai 2016, 25 et 26 mai. Voilà, je vous remercie à tous d'être venus et bon salon.